I'm only 5'6", so there wasn't going to be no NBA for me, right? But as
You
far
could
as
be a jockey.
maybe, but and then I was always, my grades was always so bad I could
Yeah.
never play football, and so for me I always wanted to rap because I used to always love storytelling. Always love storytelling. You know, my mom, like I said, my mom was an English teacher. I grew up on the booking program, reading 4 books a week. You know, to get a free pizza. You know, my mom would always tell me to read things that don't necessarily pertain to me. So I grew up reading Mad Judy Blume and Beverly Cleary. So I was always in love with storytelling. So I'm in a recording studio, right? Because if you want to be a rapper, you got to be where people are rapping. So I was in this recording studio, 2 of them actually. One of them was called TNT Studios, another was called Never So Deep Records. And well, the guy who owned Never So Deep Records is a great mentor to me to this day named Dr. Robert Evans. But at the studio, I met a radio personality named Willie Will. And he worked at Z93 Jams in Charleston, South Carolina. And I'm a curious person. If I see you doing something positive or doing something that looks cool, I'm going to ask you. And I just asked him, like, yo, how did you get in the radio? And he said, I got an internship. And I said, what do I got to do to get an internship? He said, go down to the radio station and ask for an internship. And I'm like, it's that easy? I said, I'm not in school or nothing. He was like, so? Mind you, this is 1998 Charleston, South Carolina.
Got
Like,
it.
things were totally different. And that's what I did. I went down to the radio station and I filled out my internship papers. And I started as an intern. Like, literally, I was the guy that would drive the radio station vehicle to the concerts or to the different remotes and help them, you know, set up their posters and things like that. And then that eventually turned into me getting a gig in the promotions department, which is just being a paid intern. So I was making $5 an hour or something like that. And then I would always be in the studio with Willie Will. And Willie Will would bring me on the mic sometime. And, you know, we'd be talking. And I remember one day my man Ron White, who was the music director, still a good friend of mine to this day, he comes to me and he goes, yo, you ever thought about being on the radio? And I'm like, no, but I am now. And so he started putting me on Sunday mornings, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And they used to do something called voice tracking where you would record your voice and they would air it. And, you know, I was too much for Sunday mornings. So they started putting me on Saturday nights, 7 to 10, it was voice tracked, 10 to midnight, it was live. And that's where the bug bit me. And I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.